We are going to be showing a clip of one of our community chats that has to do with anti-inflammatory foods and lifestyle medicine in general. So you did see the clip from the arthritis dietitian. The session or the segment before this. And so we are going to have her again. She's on this community chat, and we are going to show a quick clip. So I am going to pull that up. Alrighty, so here we go with the next segment.
Give up as well. But Stacy Style Soul, you are right there with it. I'm glad you found that those things are your triggers, and it is life-saving if you do find them, for sure.
Yeah, and I feel that it's so individualized. Like we cannot generalize that this is like the bank statement. A lot of people ask me, "Oh, can you just send me the meal plan?" I send guides, but it's really based on your preferences, your, if your budget, your lifestyle. It all depends. And while we were having this conversation, I actually prepared a little almost vegan parfait with strawberries and Nutella. That's where the almost vegan comes. So just to show you later, like how quickly and easy it is to really prepare an anti-inflammatory snack or meal.
Absolutely. And like you said, I think that that's super important, that, not everybody is going to like all of the, the set meal plans that people may produce. Like as an Asian American or as a Filipino, like rice is such a big thing in our culture and in a lot of Latin cultures and things like that.
Mhm.
And a lot of diets that you'll see, it's like, oh no, you have to completely eliminate all white rice. And it's like, that doesn't seem really realistic for a lot of people. You know what I mean? And so I think that's super important. And like you said, budgetary also, some people can't afford organic, vegan cheese and things like that. And I feel like it's, like you said, it should be catered to each person and their lifestyle. So as you guys are all listening to this, pick and choose things that you would like and that you think will fit in your lifestyle. Don't feel just because, people are suggesting the things that you don't like to eat that you have to eat them and force yourself to do that. That can cause, a lot of other issues down the road. And I think that definitely making sure that, what you're picking and choosing what fits your own lifestyle from the advice that they give.
And also, like, food should bring you joy. And I definitely feel that I have my own garden and my own herb garden, and I love to cook from that. It's so much fun as far as doing that goes, and just learning all different kinds of things. But usually if it's a piece of information that you're struggling with, all these categories have multiple foods in them. So there are things that we try to steer you away from, like nightshade vegetables and things like that could be a trigger for you. But if you eliminate them and you notice that you're still in the same bucket, and then you reintroduce them and you're not noticing any change, then you can pretty much say that is not a trigger for you. So yeah, I live by tools in the kitchen and life hacks in the kitchen. I cook from my pantry and my freezer. We have an upright freezer, so I buy things on sale. That is something that I've always lived by. And I think it was my grandfather that, taught me to do that. You buy
Mhm.
things that when they're on sale and you store them in the freezer if you have that space.
Mhm.
Sometimes you don't have that space. If you're in just have
Mhm.
that little part of your freezer, the top part of your freezer or the bottom part of your freezer, wherever your freezer lives, you've got to kind of strategize what you put in there.
Absolutely.
That was something different for me because I was, I'm born and raised in Colombia, and many times we actually live by the day. So we bought and purchased the foods that we needed for the day. So we didn't have that mentality that you will buy for a week worth of food. It's like, no, we don't know if we're going to have money for tomorrow's food. So that was a learning experience, and I'm still adjusting. I have to be honest. I feel like when I see a whole abundance of food, it's like, oh my God, how many people are not eating? So, but I learned that definitely the one thing that I find here in Canada is like all the frozen fruits and vegetables, and recognizing that there are some low budget foods that, man, like these days in Canada is crazy. The food prices they're crazy, and the amount of people are using food banks that they are not even using it. It's unreal, and we need to acknowledge that yeah, perhaps we can have all these organic foods and all these sprouts and beautiful foods, but we need to acknowledge that we need to eat. We still need energy and nutrition to maintain our like vital functions. And I don't know if it'll be worth sharing, but I work at a food bank once, and they told me, what do you do with mac and cheese? Okay, right? This is like a staple in North America. And I didn't eat it. I was like, oh, what the heck is that? I don't know what that is. Mac and cheese. And so, what do you do with mac and cheese? So, what if that's the only thing that perhaps you can have for your meal today and share it? So you kind of have to power it up and add some anti-inflammatory foods to that. Like shredded carrot actually tastes pretty good with this. You have like maybe frozen broccoli that it also is going to boost up, right? Broccoli tastes delicious with cheese. So it in a way, okay, no, it's not ideal, but I just really get upset at the food shaming that you maybe can't afford to buy certain foods. Okay, what can you do to improve the nutritional profile of what you have access to?
Right.
And that was my rant for
No,
today.
I actually fully support that too, because depending on where you live, if you live in an apartment and you don't have access to a car, and the corner store is your next best spot to buy groceries from, what they offer, I think some of them are getting better. They do offer some fruit and things like that you could probably grab, but I mean, for a lot of people, it's the bag of chips that they see, and they're hungry and they think that that's what they want to go towards. Ideally, that's probably not the best choice, but some of them are doing better as far as some of the choices that they'll at least offer in some of those locations. But it's not necessarily the person's fault either. And don't
Mhm.
don't look down on yourself if that is what your choice of groceries is. We
Mhm.
can try to give you some recommendations of things to eat. Again, it's a lifestyle, and it is something you have to try to get used to as far as trying to eat healthier. It's a
Mhm.
mindset. I think that's more of a better way of saying it. Knowing that you will feel better if you're eating healthier. So if you have an autoimmune disease, that is going to make a big impact on me. It did for me as far as how I cook and things like that. But I also do have my cheat days where fried chicken is kind of my favorite yummy food. And I don't do that often, but I mean, we all cheat, and you've got to allow yourself those simple pleasures of things that you get used to. And, but just trying to influence what you have in your house and what you're grocery shopping for. Don't
Mhm.
go grocery shopping when you're hungry. That is a bad, bad decision, because you're going to grab and you're going to go at impulses of what what speaks to you at the moment.
And also start your grocery shopping at home. Like sometimes we just kind of go mindlessly go into the grocery shop. And that's what I did with my kitchen clean out challenge, which was very simple, but I think it really gave the tools to the participants to really acknowledge what they have in their pantry or the freezer or the fridge, kind of make a list of what they have. Then maybe there are things that they can toss because it's old, or maybe maybe they have, I'm going to make that change. I don't want to see the mac and cheese, so I'm going to donate it. And that's fine too, right? That is really a way to start changing that mindset, just to even look at what is at your environment. So start with your kitchen. So what is the inventory? What you have? What is lacking? Then you start restocking with all these anti-inflammatory foods, and which we can list in a minute. Then right, making sure that you have everything is like within your field of vision, right? Instead of the potato chips, perhaps you want to have more like the nuts or the dry fruits. Those are things that are kind of within your, so you're hungry, that's what you're going to grab, not the potato chips, right? So it's about how you play with your mind too, and just take one step at a time. If the only thing that you want to change is your breakfast for a month, then just start with your breakfast. And remember that you measure, I learned this, is that you measure your success against your progress, not against your ideals. So you have to look at yourself, how you were last month, and you say, oh, I was only eating egos with butter. Hey, but today, 30 days later, I'm actually adding oatmeal and I'm adding more fruits to I'm adding maybe a smoothie. So that's how you measure success. You don't measure success at how the influencer is kind of look at, oh, look at what I ate today. No.
Yeah, and I like what you mentioned before about like the mac and cheese with the frozen broccoli. That's something that I had that I really resonate with, because for me, just incorporating vegetables in general was hard for me. I could only eat it in soup, or I could only eat it with a sauce on top and things like that. And I didn't like the texture like that frozen vegetables would give you, but then when I would buy fresh vegetables, then they would go bad. And so recently I just like went mostly fully on frozen vegetables and found ways to make them that I like it. Like I microwave it up for a little bit to defrost it, and then I throw it in the air fryer to roast them and add, like all the seasonings and things like that. And also like with cheat days, like if me and my fiance want to go get a burger, then I also make sure to make a side of broccoli, or make a side of green beans, just to make sure that we get in those vegetables still, even if we are eating something that's a little less nutritious. So I agree with adding like that makes me feel better that I'm doing a little bit better for my diet whenever I do that. And just it's much easier to have frozen broccoli for florets inside the freezer and just pop it in. Lindsay says a tiny bit of bacon grease helps too. That's very true. I had an obsession with Brussels sprouts and a little bit of bacon. I would eat it for lunch for like every day in the middle of the pandemic, when we were all just like sitting at home. I
Yep.
just wanted to eat Brussels sprouts. But yes, that was such a great intro and so many good tips so far already. I'd love to go into the nitty gritty of you guys letting us know about different anti-inflammatory foods that you recommend, and maybe even suggesting different things that may cause more inflammation, like that people can decrease in their diet also.
Absolutely. There's a whole list of foods that you really want to limit. And there's, as far as the anti-inflammatory diet, the first things I think I'll add, Christine, if that's okay, is fish. A lot of us don't think about fish that often, but adding more salmon and tuna, those type of different kinds of fish, they are much higher in antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids. Again, the lingo of being a dietitian, but just think of fish. If you don't buy fish, try to, maybe a small goal is to add one dinner, or one main meal, whether your dinner is at nighttime or in the afternoon. Try to aim for fish at least one time a week. Just something small that you can start to work at. But those type of things definitely help aid with trying to have more of an anti-inflammatory response versus the inflammatory response, which, as you see my hands have that inflammatory response. Yes.
Mhm.
Those type of things. And fruits and vegetables, if you can have anywhere between 1 to 2 cups of fruit a day. I know that sounds like a lot, but if you have a grapefruit is probably can be a large grapefruit can be close to 2 cups of fruit. So you're doing it in one portion. And 2 to 3 cups of vegetables. That can be a salad at nighttime, so leafy vegetables, one larger bowl of salad or 2 small salads, adding different colors of vegetables into your diet, whether it's carrots and broccoli, cauliflower. I know I have a texture thing with broccoli and cauliflower. I love raw cauliflower, so it lives in my salads, but I don't like cooked cauliflower. It takes on a whole different flavor. I love cooked broccoli, but I don't love raw broccoli. But I will eat it, and different kinds of vinaigrettes I tend to dip into, those type of things, make it easier to meet those requirements. Christina, take
All
over.
right. Okay, so I will go for the vegan or the plant-based options for omega-3s because not everyone, but you might just not like seafood or fish at all, which I found people hate it. And I love salmon or some cod or tuna. I love tuna. I could eat tuna every day. So, but that's probably you want to keep your mercury levels also down. Unfortunately, that's kind of the world we're living in. So I think the 1 time a week is a very realistic goal. But what if you don't enjoy it, or you're vegan, or you're following a different dietary pattern? So basically, the best way to get omega-3s is from hemp, from hemp seeds or hemp oil, even though it's not as really as effective, right? The body doesn't convert it into like the actual DHA and EPA, just the dietitian talk, that is going to have that effect on inflammation. So in that situation, they actually developed the Nutrim, like a Nutri-C algae that it is concentrated in omega-3. So in those situations, then the supplementation becomes actually necessary if you are not getting all your omega-3s from your diet, because unfortunately it's so easy to get the omega-6, right? And it doesn't mean that they're completely like harmful all the way, right? But every time we go out, they're going to be cooking on, say sunflower oil, right? Or they're going to just baked goods all have extra omega-6. So you want to make sure that we have a good balance of both oils. And in general, if you're choosing like the best oils for inflammation, is those were unsaturated and monounsaturated fats. And especially I always says olive oil is king, and actually did a nice post in my Instagram account about the cooking oils for arthritis. And then the next one, I would say avocado oil is a little bit more pricey, but I would say this. The good thing about it is that it tolerates takes higher temperatures than olive oil, but they both are high in antioxidants and monounsaturated fats. And the controversial one is like coconut oil. What do you think about coconut oil, Deb?
You know, uh, it is one of those that's hard because, again, it is it's solid, so it's a solid oil until you heat it. I tried to use more coconut oil, and I ended up going more towards avocado oil, which I was able to cook a little bit easier with than I did the coconut. I'm not a big fan overall.
And I think overall with the coconut oil, I think there is that sense that like, oh my God, it's because it has the medium chain fatty acids, so they're easy to absorb. But at the end of the day, 90% more than like 95% or 96% of the content is saturated fat. And there is really robust evidence suggesting that excess of saturated fats are inflammatory. They are not promoting for the cardiovascular health, right? They're detrimental for your cardiovascular health. And so it doesn't mean that you stop eating saturated fats, but then you just kind of replace. Sometimes coconut oils is delicious, and Caribbean food, like Thai food. And so then you enjoy it, right? But not to make it the primary source of the oils in your diet.
Right. Absolutely. I tend to, my cooking pleasure, I've probably like 20 olive oils and different flavors of olive oils sitting on my, right next to my stove. And I cook with basil olive oil and rosemary olive oil, the lemon olive oil. There's a tangerine olive oil. There's so many different levels and flavors that it it brings me joy because I bring different flavors into everything. And um, I love like cooking with a lot of herbs too, fresh herbs and spices, and also dried ones as well. But you can just do so much with flavor in just such a small way. So I tend to have landed more with the olive oils just in my own house, just because I find so many different ways of using them.
Yeah, and that's actually great. That's something I learned too. Like olive oil wasn't like my favorite oil because
Right.
we are not used to back home in Colombia. But then it takes small steps, right? One at a time. And at this time, I only cook with olive oil. It took me like 5 years to do that, or even more, to really. So you just take your time. So every change doesn't happen overnight, but if you make a change that's going to be sustainable for the rest of your life, that's the change you want to keep. Well, you mentioned so again we go for fruits and vegetables. So I kind of have my things here that I low budget in inflammatory foods. So I definitely during the winter here in Canada or the north, frozen fruits and vegetables again becomes a big asset, especially berries. Berries are really high in antioxidants and fiber. And really, when you buy fresh oils, like I just went into like a 1 pound of fresh strawberries, it's like $6, sometimes $7. Here you'll have almost like again 600 grams more for less money, and then you can keep it and use it for a long time in the freezer. And just like I made my parfait with Nutella, you see?
Yeah, looks beautiful.
Like,
That
so,
beautiful.
so take advantage of all seasonal foods as well. Remember, they are more packed with nutrients than the ones that are transported. Like I don't eat papaya here. I will only eat it in Colombia. I know it's not going to have the same nutritional profile
Right. And
that when it
yeah,
travels here.
the flavor isn't going to be quite the same either, with that kind of thing, is for sure.
What what about whole grains?
Yeah,
What do you think about whole grains?
I do actually try to encourage as many whole grains as possible versus a white enriched bread. I go for whole grain breads. I also love the seedy breads with all of the sesame seeds and different kinds of grains within them. I like those kind of breads, like the 10 grain breads and the 12 grain breads. It's not always for everybody, but I try to increase that. I only buy wheat bread and oat nut bread and all those different kinds of things, just as something easy that I know that if we are going to have bread, the only time I buy white bread is when I make my stuffing for Thanksgiving. That was how I learned how to make our stuffing. So that is the one time a year that I do buy white bread. But I definitely enjoy those kinds of breads as well, because they've got a little bit more to it, and there's more flavor to it. And when you're biting into some like a pumpkin seed within your bread, that's kind of a nice texture in my mouth. But baby steps. If you're not used to that, then try to buy whole wheat bread or make your own breads. I know that is kind of a hard for some folks, but I do really enjoy baking and cooking. So I do like playing with different kinds of breads and things like that. But that's my thing on the whole wheats.
Well, I'll bring something from my pantry, and I wanna give kudos to Twisted sister, I love that. She wants to eat more pescatarian, which is great, right? Like you have the seafood that are more like plant forward and love fruits and veggies too. So I think that's a great start, right? It's the dietary pattern that fits your lifestyle and your preferences. So always remember that. I do follow a gluten-free diet. So, and because after a lot of research and all that in my own body, which can take another life, but if you are eating a gluten-free, my favorite brand is Promise. I don't know if you ever, this is in Canada. Um, it's called a Promise, and because it just tastes very similar to just regular bread. Sometimes it's very difficult to make that kind of whole grain, gluten-free. But what I like about Promise is at least they make the effort to add some extra fiber. So just for 2 slices of bread, it has 8 grams of fiber, which is like 30% of your daily needs. So that's really good.
Yeah.
I this so definitely is my go-to bread. But I wanted to say and bring up about the white rice, and I continue having this conversation. As a Latina, white rice was a staple and still is. I do not like brown rice. I just can't stand it, and I just feel that we also need to recognize the benefits of eating out white rice. So because nutrition continues to evolve with new information, now we recognize that white rice and potatoes, when they're cooked, cool, what is it? Cooked, cooled, and reheated, they actually accumulate resistant starches that bypasses the digestive system, and it goes and feeds the good bacteria to go and heal our gut. So come on, rice is back in my place.
That is
And
I did see a note from Hippie Abuela. It says, I thought seeds and grains are a no-no for AIP. It is a no-no for AIP. That is a very strict diet. So not that I just wanted to comment on that. I just saw that right now, and not. I think we're talking about the anti-inflammatory diet more specifically, not necessarily the AIP diet. But there are people that do and thrive very well with the AIP diet. I don't want to knock it by any means, but we're speaking a little bit more broadly. So, but you are correct in saying that.
And for those who don't know, the AIP diet is anti-inflammatory protocol. It does say to avoid things like grains, legumes, nightshade vegetables, eggs, dairy. But like Deb said, it's very, very like by the book, and very, very difficult to stay behind unless you are very determined and need to do that for your health. But yeah, so that's what the AIP is for those who don't know.
So
thank you.
it's not like, but actually it's not an anti-inflammatory, it's an autoimmune protocol, like, or autoimmune. So it's very strict. If you want to know more about that and how it compares to an anti-inflammatory way of eating, because it's not really a diet, I wrote a blog honestly in December, and I'm going to write more. But if you want to read it, it's actually really nice. I like that blog that I wrote at my arthritisdietitian.com, and it really explains very well in detail what an anti-inflammatory diet is. And I gave an example of how restrictions, like when you go into an autoimmune protocol, it compares to an anti-inflammatory way of eating.
Very different,
right?
It's a very
very, very different. So, and personally, I don't promote it. But like Deb said, some people thrive and they're very committed to following protocols. But I just don't believe in restrictions because of the potential harm that it could cause on our mental health
100%,
and society.
100%. But I did want to comment on that because I didn't want that comment to go by the wayside, skip through quickly. So yeah. Nuts and seeds. Those are something that tends to be very good. It's a monounsaturated fat, and the more fiber and protein that comes along with it, and the ones that I tend to recommend more are like walnuts and pine nuts and almonds. Those tend to be, and pistachios, those tend to be a little bit more usable. And I use a lot of those nuts in my salads to add a little bit of a crunch. And almonds, I love to grab by a handful. It's a great snack because it also gives your gut the you're more satisfied. You're not still hungry after eating it, so it fills you up a little bit more, and it's very, very good and good for you.
Yeah, I actually I love nuts and almonds, particularly because I have Sjogren's. I have difficulty chewing and swallowing. So when it comes to almonds, I prefer the ones that are slivered ones or like without the skin, or I let them soak overnight with water. I like the pine nuts and pistachios and cashews, walnuts because they're softer to eat. And if you didn't know, walnuts actually have like naturally occurring melatonin. So if you're struggling with the sleep, so having a snack with walnuts at night, it will really help you to kind of boost your melatonin levels. A little help there. Doesn't hurt.
Again, food is so interesting because it's so vast and broad and like little bits of information that you just don't think of. And that's what we're here to kind of share some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I also wanted to let everybody know that I will have the link to Christina's blog post that she was speaking about in our takeaway that we're going to have for this community chat. So I'll make sure that the link to that is there so that you can all read her article about, or her blog post about that. And we are starting to run out of time a little bit, so I wanted to see if we can move on to any of the hacks that you may have in the kitchen for those who have arthritis, to cook a little bit easier and get some relief from not being in so much pain when they have to cook.
These are some of my little gadgets, and they have different little gadgets too that are in the bottom. So like garlic. I don't know about you guys, but like putting the clove of garlic in and squeezing it with my hands has been a major problem for the longest time. This is something that is for, you put your piece of garlic there and you close it down and it inside your drawer and you just dump it into your food. It is a beautiful thing. This is a garlic press too, and this is a twisting thing. So I have a fused wrist and my hands are quite the problem. My thumbs don't work appropriately, but you can put your garlic in there and twist back and forth, and this is a beautiful thing. Both of these are offered on Amazon. And my last little gadget that I quickly grabbed was, this can be for ginger or garlic or even onion if you just want to get down to a different gratings of it, and you just twist it as well. And then the bottom is where you dump things out of. So these are super, super easy on the hand, and they are my go-tos as far as living different hand disabilities. And a couple things I just want to just say quickly that some of my hacks are sitting down at the kitchen table, which is right next to my kitchen. I have a garbage bowl that sits in front of me. I bring my tools. I use the garbage bowl to dump into, and another bowl where I put my finished product in, sitting down. So I'm taking the weight off my feet, and I use the garbage bowl so I'm not running back and forth to the garbage. I'm staying in one spot. Some of those things are some of my major go-tos, and I have a whole bunch. I've got an entire list of my different hacks that I have. So for working in the kitchen, you can buy pre-chopped vegetables and things like that. So Thanksgiving is my go time, and I've hosted Thanksgiving for 30 plus years now. And I have an entire document. So I will actually make that into a user-friendly document that Layla can actually put into some of the takeaways. I'll let you go.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you.
Alrighty, so thank you so much to Cristina Montoya, or the arthritis dietitian, and Deb Constien for that amazing community chat that we had last year.